Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I am going to be sort of giving a current household update / just talking about the lore of the save file you see me playing in. So, essentially, this save basically starts with my sim Jordan Rosewood, and essentially it was my first experience using the Love Struck expansion pack. And so I was really excited about that, specifically, the dating app part. And so, immediately, I had my sim join the romance consultant career because that was the main career that came with the pack. And then she also immediately went on Cupid's Corner and met Miri, who I forget her maiden last name, so that's fun. And they sort of just immediately hit it off and started dating. And then together, they adopted a child named Aaliyah, basically when Aaliyah was in the child life stage. And then they soon after adopted Alistair, or Ali for short. And then, essentially what happened is I wanted to use the dating app again, but I didn't want my sim to be a cheater. And so I killed Miri. Obviously, drowning in a pool, that whole thing. And then, ironically, Miri has a sister, and the sister died via neighborhood stories, this day after Miri did, also via drowning. So I'm like, this is a perfect storytelling opportunity, because I can just be like, oh, the sisters went on a boating trip or something, and then they drowned. Sad. And so obviously she didn't start dating right away, but then when she did, she met a vampire named Jeremiah Hawthorne. And so they started dating, and they were cute and stuff. And then they finally got married, and he turned her into a vampire. And honestly, in all the years I've played The Sims, I haven't really had that many vampire sims, and so I'm like, well, this can be my chance playing them. And then Jordan and Jeremiah had twins named Evangeline and Kathleen. And then relatively soon after that, they had twins Samson and someone else. So essentially, Samson's twin got cold at some point, and I cannot remember his twin's name because I took a huge, over a year break from the save file and honestly thought I lost it, but while I was moving saves from my old computer to my new computer, the save was just there, except Samson's brother doesn't exist anymore. Anyways, and essentially, Samson and his brother were infants. And so I was like, okay, we need to do tummy time, we need to get their milestones. And Jordan, being a vampire, took them onto the porch to, tummy time with them. And then 5 seconds after that, I'm like, oh, frick, she's a vampire, she should probably go inside, except it was too late. And she died, which was really annoying and unfortunate. And essentially, at some point after that, I just made her a playable ghost, because I'm like, I don't want to lose her. And honestly, since this was so long ago, I can't remember if I immediately made her a playable ghost or made her a playable ghost when Life and Death came out. It was one of the two. Anyways, and then I didn't really care about Jeremiah, so he just kind of did nothing. And oh yeah, I forgot about this. This is why I have notes. But Kathleen, after the death of Jordan, started lashing out at her family, specifically her twin and Samson. And so, that was fun. And then basically Evangeline took an interest in archaeology and would constantly travel to Salvadorada with a group of her friends, which is where she got a crush on a girl named Miriam. And yeah, and essentially my plan was fully to just do a legacy the same way you would do with a legacy challenge, where you have an heir and then you play that heir and then you play the next. So it's like, if that makes sense, just like a legacy rather than rotational. Usually I play rotational, but I was like, you know what? I could just like be unique from myself and just play with Evangeline. And then at some point, I got bored of that. And so I started playing rotationally, but that was sort of after I played just with Evangeline a lot. So for Evangeline's sort of storyline and what happened in their life is basically they, like I said, had the group of friends and liked Miriam. And then, Evangeline casually just started to flirt with Miriam and compliment her appearance and, typical, not subtle, but, very mild flirting stuff. And they sort of did that for a while. And then also, Evangeline got expelled. I don't know how that happened, but 1 second they were at a C, and the next second they were at an F, and then they got expelled, which was kind of sad. So they just decided to focus on their archaeology stuff, and they were getting very good with it. And so this entire time, while Evangeline was flirting with Miriam was, receptive. Never, once rejected anything they did, but, they never made it official because storytelling. And then Evangeline turned 18 and tried to ask Miriam out, except Miriam was like, hey, actually, I'm straight. And I'm like, so why did you let Evangeline flirt with you? And then I headcanoned that it was just Miriam likes the attention. Anyways, so Evangeline's not very happy about this because Evangeline's like, why didn't you just tell me you were straight? And so yeah, and then they stopped being friends, but Evangeline's still friends with the rest of their friend group. And then Evangeline opens their own business, which is fun and cool and dandy. It just started off with them selling, their archaeology artifacts. Except for the fact that, after that, I'm I would have to have them go to Selva Dorada, all the time, because everything kept selling out quickly. So I'm like, what if we, do, an archaeology shop and a tattoo parlor? And so that's exactly what I did. And then, meanwhile, this was happening. This was, Evangeline turned into an adult very soon, around the time when Life and Death came out. And so I'm like, why not try the new Reaper career, which is what you can see Evangeline is doing right now on the screen. And also, Evangeline had an incredibly just, alt-goth style sense. And so they're like, well, being a Reaper is perfect for this. And also, Evangeline took forever to, grow out of their teenage emo phase, but that's fine. And then, sort of after this, I'm like, should Evangeline, date anyone? And I'm like, I don't really care. Probably not, but I also wanted Evangeline to have kids because I'm very much so a family game player. And also, around this time, it was still just, I was playing Evangeline and ignoring everyone else. And then Evangeline became a surrogate parent, which was fun and all. And then they also later, at some point, adopted a child named Erica. And, Evangeline didn't, try it, at some point, fell in love with the Grim Reaper. Wow, who could have saw that coming? And they fell in love, I guess. Except for the fact that I was, very, okay, so I'm just gonna have Evangeline have a baby with the Grim Reaper, okay? So that did happen, except for Grim was not happy because apparently Grim hates children. So that's okay. Except for Grim didn't want to accompany Evangeline to the birth, and so instead Evangeline brought their sister-in-law Sawyer, who they are really close with. Don't ask me why Evangeline didn't take, like, I don't know, their mom or any of their siblings, other than Kathleen, because they hate each other. And then Evangeline later adopted another kid named Leilani. Oh yeah, I forgot. The Grim Reaper's baby is named Elaric. And then, like I said, Evangeline adopted Leilani. And at this point, they had 3 kids. And I was kind of thinking, I'm like, maybe I should do like a slight style refresh. And so I did. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe people were just giving them weird looks because they looked like a teenager going through an emo phase at whatever age they're at. Even though I don't know their age. They're a vampire. It's confusing. But they sort of calmed their style down, but still kept it, like, dark. And also, since I recorded this gameplay, frickin' Evangeline had another baby with one of their high school friends, except the 2 of them aren't, like, really a thing. Like, they don't have labels, I guess, which is fun. And I was honestly, like, planning on Evangeline having, like, 7 kids, having a full household, and I'm like, well, if they're dating this guy, they can't have 7 kids, only 6. And then I'm like, that's okay, they just don't have to live with, the person they don't have to live with the baby daddy, it's fine. Anyways, so that is basically Evangeline's story, which, and then partway through, like I mentioned, I'm like, but I want to play rotationally. So that's exactly what I did. And essentially, Jordan and Jeremiah are living with Aaliyah, who is the oldest, and then Aaliyah has a daughter named Lila. And so the 4 of them sort of just live together. And essentially what happened when I loaded into their household, I was letting, like, neighborhood stories and, like, townie progression through, like, MCC and the in-game neighborhood stories, like, system. They had married a guy named Oliver, and then they divorced. And so, obviously, I'm a very big storyteller, so I can't just play The Sims, I need to have a story. And so I sort of made a story for them, which you will hear in a minute, after I explain Aaliyah's lovely childhood, where, their biological parents died, I guess, and then got adopted, which is good. And as a teen, Aaliyah sort of had dreams of becoming a famous chef, and owning and operating her own restaurant, and just knew the best way to start a successful business was to use social media, obviously. And so they made a channel where she just cooked her own recipes and then shared them, and it gained a lot of attention and money. And essentially how I played this originally, because I think what happened back then is if you picked an aspiration as a teen, you could pick a new one as a young adult, which is what they added with high school years because there were teen-specific aspirations. Except for back then, it would automatically remove their teen aspiration when they aged up. And so I'm like, okay, I'll just randomize a new aspiration for, like, randomize 2. One for teenagehood and one for adulthood. And I think what happened is I had randomized that Aaliyah's hobby was cooking, and their aspiration was become a 5-star celebrity or something like that. So I'm like, okay, I'll just combine the 2. Except for then they aged up to a young adult, and their new aspiration was writing. So I was like, well, you can still cook and you can make recipe books. And so that is what I had her do. I just had her make recipe books, or just publish regular books disguised as recipe books. And so soon Aaliyah moved out because, again, I was just planning on playing with Evangeline, and so I just moved her out the second she hit 18. And then she didn't go to university because, again, I didn't, play her. And she met Oliver Williams, who, asked her on a date because, through my headcanons, Aaliyah basically had a cookbook signing, and he appeared and was like, hey, you're cute, can I get your number? And then the relationship goes well for a while, and then Aaliyah becomes pregnant, causing Oliver to propose, and the 2, have a shotgun wedding, because that's always fun. And then like, sort of, like, suspected for them. The shotgun wedding was not, like, good in the long term, and they were not ready for or even, like, that interested in marriage. And so when Lila was around 5, the two got divorced, and Lila stayed with Aaliyah, Jordan, and Jeremiah. And then Lila was, like, begging Aaliyah, her mom, and she was like, but you should find, like, a boyfriend or a girlfriend, like, I don't care. And Aaliyah wasn't interested and just continued writing in the small apartment she shared with her family. Speaking of small apartments, it was a small apartment, which essentially means that there were 2 bedrooms, and I'm like, okay, one for Jordan and Jeremiah, one for Lila, and then we can just have a Murphy bed in the living room. Except guess what? The Murphy bed killed Aaliyah, which has literally never happened before. And I was really confused because I just told her to put the bed down, and I thought the only way you could die from Murphy beds was, like, if it got stuck and you tried to fix it. So maybe I'm remembering that wrong, or maybe the game is stupid, but the point is she died, and I was really sad. But that's okay. And then Lila, I guess we'll move on to Lila. And so Lila, soon after turning 13, develops a crush on their friend of 2 years named Brett King, and started flirting and sort of, like, dropping hints about how she likes him, and even sneaking him in late at night. And one night when he sneaks in, Lila's like, hey, so, like, you're hot, I like you, and he was like, oh, cool. Except for Brett had the mean trait and started being mean to Lila, and Lila's like, okay, maybe I don't want him. And then Lila's like, well, maybe I don't want anyone's, and then realized that they were aromantic, which was fun. And then this happens. It was really lovely. So Kathleen, her aunt, was throwing a gender reveal party and invited the whole family, because that's what I do anytime there's an event. I invite the whole family because it's a big family. And essentially, Lila has the kleptomaniac trait and stole something from Kathleen's house. And I have the law and disorder mod, which means Sims can call the police. And so Kathleen called the police on her niece, who basically got arrested, had a court trial, was declared guilty, and then was under house arrest. So that was fun. But that's sort of like that little line. Next, we have Alistair Rosewood. He was also adopted as a baby, and as a teen, he, like, loved video gaming and computers. And since, like, Aaliyah was like, hey, parents, can I have a channel to post my cooking? Ali was like, can I have a channel to just play video games? And they're like, sure. And so he kept doing that through all his teen years, and just didn't have a relationship as a teen, because I guess he was busy programming and video gaming stuff. So, and then in university, which technically he didn't go, but again, storytelling, he continued streaming until he discovered programming and was like, hey, maybe I like programming and not I like computers and not just video games. So he started to program and prefers to make games rather than play them. And then in university, he also met Lenani Hastings, and after becoming good friends, they started dating. And essentially, Lenani had a daughter while she was in high school, who is named Emerson, and so Ali, like, kind of, like, treated Emerson like a daughter, and so Lenani's like, well, that's kind of hot. And then Ali proposed after graduation, and they eloped after, and then adopted a daughter named Melanie, and yeah, that was all fun. And then, yeah, and so Emerson, I originally wasn't going to play with Emerson, because I'm like, well, Emerson isn't directly related to the Rosewood legacy, she's related to Lenani, except then she was pregnant, and I wanted to play her, so I thought it would be fun. And I didn't bother writing a backstory for Emerson, because I had done too much thinking, and I didn't want to think anymore. But basically, Emerson had twins, Leon and Arturo, and also has a husband named Roger. And Roger was always like, you know how parents can have favorite children, and, like, sometimes it's sort of, like, very obvious, and sometimes it's sort of, like, nuanced, and you can't really tell. Well, with Roger, you can 100% tell that Leon is his favorite. And then they had another kid. And while Emerson was giving birth to her other kid, named Romeo, essentially Roger autonomously was flirting with some random girl in the lobby of the hospital. And I'm like, great. And then Emerson didn't even notice. So that was fun. And then Emerson is a stay-at-home mom, but also makes jewelry. And then Roger is a photographer, but I don't like him because he cheated on his wife. And then recently, what sort of happened is he also just, like, was not there for the birth of the baby. He was, like, in the hospital, but, like, when she was actually giving birth, he wasn't there. So Emerson just kind of yelled at him, and out of spite, he, like, met up with the girl he was flirting with at the hospital, and now they are very constantly fighting and sort of, like, on the edge of a divorce, but that's okay. Kind of. And then, like I mentioned, their kids are Leon, Arturo, and Romeo. Like, the older twins, Leon and Arturo, are still children and not teens, and I don't give a crap about storytelling for kids. I only start doing that when they are teens. So next, we have Kathleen, who, like I mentioned, is the twin of Evangeline. And basically, Kathleen, growing up, saw most of her family as insufferable, but especially Evangeline and Samson. Like, with Aaliyah and Allie, her relationship is like 20s, but it's in the red for Samson and Evangeline. And she dated, like, a few people in high school, and none of them were enough to care about. But the one person she sort of cared about was Brandon Strickland, and they both liked each other, but Kathleen, like, wasn't necessarily ready for a commitment. But the two still just, like, platonically move in with each other and Brandon's son that he, like, had in high school. And they move there into the city the second they turn 18, because they just don't want to live with their families anymore. And then Kathleen, like, growing up, I can't remember what she did as a teen, but she has the bodybuilder aspiration. And so I gave her the athletic career. And she, like, isn't the biggest fan of her family, but she still, like, goes to all the family gatherings and invites her over because I force her to. And basically, Brandon and Kathleen are both, like, not good people. Except, like, together, they're cute, you know? They're mean to everyone else except each other and also their children. But Kathleen was like, so, like, I like you, but I don't exactly want to be exclusive. And he was like, that's fine. So they're technically in a non-exclusive relationship, even though neither of them have flirted with anyone. So I'm like, maybe it's just, like, a just-in-case sort of thing. Who knows? And then I wasn't going to get them married because I didn't, like, think they would want that, except for through one of the mods I have. Kathleen was like, oh, so when are you proposing? And I'm like, oh, I guess she wants to get married. And then I was gonna wait, and then Kathleen got pregnant and gave birth to Lucian, and essentially after that I was like, I want them to have another child, because using the romance and pregnancy overhaul mod, I randomized how many children they would like to have, and it was, like, more than 2 for both of them, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have them married and then have Kathleen get pregnant again, which she currently is now. Oh yeah, and then while pregnant, essentially what happened is Kathleen was throwing a Winterfest party, and invited her family and also Brandon's family. And essentially, Kathleen is, you know, a vampire. And so she, for some reason, despite having, like, plasma packs in her inventory, and her, like, thirst not being that low, she still sucked the blood of, like, her brother-in-law or something. And he called the police on her. And so, luckily she never got arrested and was let off with a warning. And then, while she was, like, in prison over the night, the guy who reported her died in a fire. And you may think, hey, did you plan this? Honestly, no, I did not. They had a fireplace, and they have a rug, which means, you know, a fire started, and then it was a mess, and I was kind of laughing, because it was kind of funny. And then Brandon finally proposes, except the two of them are kind of really poor. Because, one, Brandon is a stay-at-home dad. Two, Kathleen is, like, an athlete, but she's not, like, a famous athlete that gets paid millions. And so both of them started working odd jobs until they could finally, like, afford a wedding, and it was really cute. And then both their children, with the, I can't remember what it is, but neurodivergence, it, like, gives your Sims the ability to be neurodivergent. And so I got it. And so both of them have autism spectrum disorder and are gifted. And by both of them, I mean their kids. Because Diego was basically Brandon's child from high school, and he loves plants. And then Lucian loves reading. And then next, I already went over Evangeline. So next we have Samson. And basically, Samson, like I said, was born to a twin, except the twin got cold. So that was kind of sad. And then, like, Samson, like, grew up and was kind of, like, he has the mean trait. And then I said, except he's only mean to people who deserve it, like Kathleen, because Kathleen's, like, the only person in his family he has a negative relationship with, despite him being mean. Like, him and Evangeline are super close, and he's just, like, in the 50s with everyone else. So yeah. And then he grew up loving painting and taking after his dad, because Jeremiah is a painter. And he found it calming and therapeutic and, like, a way to let out his mean emotions healthily, rather than yelling at people, even if they deserved it. But he also soon learned that he enjoyed yoga as a way to calm his emotions as well. And he, like, I went into his household, and most other Sims just, like, had a job because of, like, neighborhood stories, but he didn't. And I'm like, what if I put him in the education career? And then I'm like, well, I guess working with children gives him patience. So yeah, and then he met Sawyer, who is now his wife, and they're really cute. So yeah, they're really cute, and I like them, and they're, like, probably my favorite couple. And then before I started playing them, they had a daughter named Lacey. And since, like, the Rosewoods became rich because it's really easy to become rich in this game. And then also Sawyer came from, like, a really rich family. So Lacey is rich and was like, she can sort of, like, pursue whatever hobby she wants. And she just decides, like, I want to be famous, like, really badly. And she's kind of like, I mean, I don't really care, like, how I get famous. I just want to be famous. So she made videos, she acted, and she sang. And then finally, as a teen, she was like, okay, maybe I just want to act. And then she's currently single, but I want to change that. And then little sibling, June. There's nothing much about June, not gonna lie, because, again, June's a child, and I don't care about children in this game. But that's okay. And then I think this is the only couple who's, like, done having kids, because neither of them want kids, but that's, like, obviously it's fine. But I love big families in this game. And then, coming back to Jordan and Jeremiah. So, as I mentioned, Jordan is a ghost. She is fully a ghost, but I still control her. And essentially what happened is I have this thing where if my Sims, like, fun or social need is low and they're married, I just have them woohoo. Except for the fact that somehow, despite being a ghost, Jordan got pregnant. And I'm like, okay, maybe it's a mod. Or maybe it's the game getting confused because Jordan is a vampire and a ghost. So that was fun. So she gave birth to Lilith, who is now a toddler. Anyways, but that's basically all so far. And I'm loving the save, especially because sort of when the current children and toddlers go into teen, I really want to do, like, heavy storytelling in the save, because, like, I write stories on my own time all the time, and, like, Sims is just such, like, a great storytelling outlet. And so, like, I've sort of started to come up with stories for some of them, and so I might, like, do another video when some of them have gotten older and just sort of explain the stories I got going for them. But yeah, that's basically it for this video. I hope you enjoyed me rambling about my Sims and their lore. I also have a plum tree of this like family. So if you like want to check that out and sort of see what these Sims look like, or like read their stories or see like what their MBTI or anagram is and just like some extra information that I didn't include in this video, then you can check that out. But yes, thank you for watching, and I will see you all in my next video.